Pan-Africanize your Christianity. Pan-Africanize your Islam. Pan-Africanize everything. Pan-Africanize your home. Pan-Africanize your mind first. We want to Pan-Africanize our clothes. Pan-Africanize our hair. Pan-Africanize our names. No. Pan-Africanize your mind first. A Negro with a dashiki still a Negro. A Negro with a veggie wrap still a Negro. A Negro with an African name still a Negro. A Negro with 20 pounds still a Negro. So brothers, if you have children, stay in the house until those children reach the age of maturity. That white woman is a living, breathing agent. And this is what y'all need to understand. Racism ain't personal. It's about power. Racism ain't personal. It's about power. Have you seen all those stories? Have you seen all those stories of black men who were lynched, put in the electric chair, beaten to death by mobs? Black men thrown in jail because a white woman voluntarily had sex with them. White woman voluntarily had sex with them. Everybody in the town knew that the white woman voluntarily had sex with them. But when they found out that they were having sex, the white woman did what? Lied to the black man's face and said, "You raped me." The black man said, "What are you talking about? This was consensual. We've been having sex every week. How can I rape you every week?" But the white woman, having an obligation to protect the illusion of white racial purity, she lied and said the black man raped her. Everyone knows she lied, and he was condemned to death by the same white woman he was having sex with. It ain't personal, it's business. That's what's wrong with you brothers dating these white women. You don't understand, that's personal. But when it comes to the maintenance, proportion, proliferation, and domination of white power and privilege, she will sell your black ass. That same white woman who gave you those babies will sell your black ass. That same white woman who doing all that freaky deaky stuff behind closed doors will come out those closed doors and sell your ass down the drain. How many black athletes? Because I know a couple. How many black athletes y'all know about who had their college careers destroyed, professional careers destroyed, because they upset a white woman and she claimed that he raped or domestically abused her? Blew his mind. He never thought she could do anything like that. But she knows something you don't know. That whenever she decides to destroy your ass and snap up fingers, in the entire gulf of white power will come down on your black dominant ass for failing to realize that even though she's sexy, even though she's sleeping with you, even though she's married to you, even though she's giving you babies, her first love, her first commitment, her first obligation is to the maintenance, protection, and proliferation of power and white privilege. Boom. Facts. I don't hate her. I can have a civilized conversation with a white woman. I can have a civilized conversation with a white man. It's just a conversation. That's called diplomacy. Diplomacy. White people use diplomacy with us all the time. And when they use diplomacy with us, you know what we call it? We call it friendship. When white folks are diplomatic with black folks, we call it friendship. You don't understand. It's not friendship. Okay. tomorrow I'm gonna try to check out this Smithsonian Museum we got down there. Okay, a part of me don't even want to go because I think I'm gonna be angry after I see this museum. Because I got a feeling in my gut that this museum starts with slavery. It starts in slavery. It ends with Obama becoming president. Somebody please tell me that's not true. I hope it's not. But I know white folks. And I know white folks. And I got a funny feeling that this is a slavery origin to Obama. We liberated. I hope that ain't the case. That's what I'm thinking about. Okay. So I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up. I just want to shout out to the fellas. With your wife, you know, I don't like to speak to you, you know, but and the question is, what is your position in the struggle?
De-stress with journal how-tos, even without Wi-Fi. Try YouTube Premium on us and reflect uninterrupted. Is that my aura? Let's see if this can change.
They're broke too. Attorney Sperling.
It's not all the sisters that are on welfare. You have a lot of working mothers who also go for child support. I think the bigger issue here, Tammy, is we have a broken community because black people have no business going to the white man to ask him to reconcile family issues. That is the question. That we're going back to the same man who has historically stolen our kids, sold our kids, beat our kids, destroyed the black family. You mean to tell me we get out of slavery only to run back to Massa and say, come on, you serve as a conduit between me and the mother of our child. Can you tell me how much time I can spend with my child? Can you tell him how much money he should spend with his child? As far as I'm concerned, the child support system is a symptom. The problem is the broken black community where we can lay down and make babies, but we can't stand up together and take care of them.
Ooh, family advocate mediation support says yes!
And he needed to make sure that there would be enough inmates to fill those prisons. The child support system is not about taking care of children. The child support system is about incriminating the poorest element of African American males who are living on less than $10,000 a year and then punishing them for not being able to make a payment that in all reality they will not be able to make.
Nerese Cox said, so what's your suggestion, Dr. Umar?
My suggestion for...
I think she's referring to, in terms of the child support. What's your suggestion for a woman receiving child support? But I think Attorney Sperling had
work with the brothers, man.
Which was equal custody and equal pay. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Umar?
I definitely like the idea of equal custody and equal pay. We also need to keep in mind that when it comes to black men, there's two different groups, if you would, economically within the child support system. You have the professional black men, and then you have your brothers who are working class and also impoverished. And it is the brothers who are working class and impoverished that we are most concerned about. Of course, the professional black man can pay his child support, but what about the brother with a prison record, 2 or 3 strikes on his a GED, a high school diploma, and even if he wants to improve himself economically, he has a felony on his record that doesn't allow him to access the federal credit union and access the student loans he's trapped. What about him? Why are we expecting men who can barely care for themselves to be able to pay child support for the child? And the other thing, we have to look at support as broader than just a financial contribution. It bothers me that we limit support to a financial contribution. He can be the baby. He can take him to school. He can be the aftercare provider. There's so many other ways that a father can support his child as opposed to just giving out money to the mother.
You know, that's an interesting thought because I always say that men don't mind supporting women as long as they're sleeping with them. And then when they're not sleeping with her, they ain't really trying to support them anymore. But women, now I'm thinking about women. Women don't mind bearing the load he doesn't have a job. They don't mind if he doesn't pay the bills. Many, there are women who will take a man at his worst. Please, Dr. Omar?
No. Yes, I think both gentlemen are right, the elder and the attorney. The issue is we have to keep in mind that a lot of the black men we're talking about are working poor, so they cannot pay that $5,000 retainer for the paternity fee. We also have to recognize that the child support system itself is financially exploitative. There are fees associated with everything you do. If you're late with your payment, there's an interest rate there. There's an interest payment that has to be made. If you want to file a modification, that costs money. There is money associated with every single thing you do. So if you have a young father working poor who can barely make his monthly payment to begin with, and then on top of that, he's going to be bereft with a whole bunch of different fees for everything he wants to do to modify and improve the custody or the child support situation. The system is unfair. That's why a lot of them have trouble staying in it. A lot of fathers will go. And once they see how unfair the system is, that's when they start checking out, because there's not a lot of justice in the child support system. And the black community stakeholders, such as our politicians, our preachers, our community-based organizations, they're not saying enough about this, because the radical black feminist movement has made people afraid to speak up for black fathers who are being crushed under the child support weight, because you will be branded as someone who is soft on fathers who don't want to be responsible. And that's not correct. The true narrative is most fathers want to take care of their children, but you have a system that will call you a criminal if you can't take care of your child, but that same system won't give you a job so you can do so.
I want to reach into our soulmate comments real quick, because it is flooded, fellas. It is flooded. Maya K is through the roof. She is so angry. I have to address her. My children's father doesn't pay his child support, nor does he pay health insurance. So what about those men? Well, he shouldn't have children if he can't care for them, she says. He still has to step up and take care of his responsibilities. So the mother's supposed to pull the financial weight. These men sound crazy, she says. Maya is on a roll here, but there are several people who are on a roll. Maya, I want to first share with you that no, I don't believe, and fellas, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that anyone on this panel, nor I, believe that men should not be responsible for their children. That is not what this show is about. This show is about how the system of child support in America affects and impacts black fathers from being their best, to be quite frank. I'm sorry, and it's unfortunate that the man you chose to have your child with has not been the man who has stepped up to the plate. That's an unfortunate decision that has happened, and it sounds like you're going to bear the responsibility up until the child becomes an adult. That's unfortunate too. But that's not what this show is about. It's about the impact of those fathers. We all think that the brother should be responsible for the child he bears with you. Does anybody disagree with that?
No. Just so you hear from a black man, we all think that if you have a child, you need to be responsible for it mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually. You need to raise that child, and a lot of us do raise that child. We're just talking about a system.
Let me go back to another soulmate. Keith says, why are these black fathers broke? And if he's broke, should he reconsider having kids? Well, I would imagine the part of that is it's not, I guess, unfortunately or fortunately for me, unfortunately for me, it is not a man's decision typically whether a woman decides to have the child or not.
Well, also, we have to be careful with that type of conversation that says you should not be having children if you can't afford them. Because there's people in this country who would love for the black community to endorse that sort of a circumstance, because that would basically mean that a lot of fathers would not be able to reproduce because they don't have the economic wherewithal to provide for those children. We are not God. We have to be very careful about telling people that they can't reproduce if they can afford. Because if that's the case, then America can simply create a situation where black fathers won't be able to afford, and then nobody will be reproducing. Let us be clear. This country has been trying to reduce our numbers since we got here. So we have to make sure that as we have these conversations about child support and custody, that we don't lead into a racist narrative that says we should voluntarily stop reproducing.
You protect your family. Now help protect their heir.
So glad I got the ooh.
My friend used to pay $163 for car insurance.
Nah, he killed me on that one.
$28. Most insurance companies are ripping us off. They don't want us to know that there's an easier way to get cheaper insurance. All you have to do is go here and get a quote in under 2 minutes. And if you've overpaid in the past, they'll even refund your money. You just put in your information and it compares all the different insurance companies to make sure that you get the best rate. Plus, it includes state discounts, which other insurance companies don't do. And it's all to help you get the best rate. So this is how the bill runs at $28 a month for car insurance. It makes no sense. Now he's not paying $163 for car insurance. I'll go ahead and put a link below so you can check it out for yourself.
Situation when you slept with him. Why is this situation a problem?
Let us be clear. This country has been trying to reduce our numbers since we got here. So we have to make sure that as we have these conversations about child support and custody, that we don't feed into a racist narrative that says we should voluntarily stop reproducing ourselves.
Yeah, I think the Evans family did a good job. Logic Wins says to Maya K, well, I assume you knew his financial situation when you slept with him. Why is his situation a problem?
That's what family law judges say all the time.
Come on, man.
Come down and complain about, oh, he's not paying his child support. Well, you knew he had 2 other children by 2 other women when you got pregnant.
That every man who has a child should be responsible for their child, and each one of the panelists has agreed. What this conversation is about how the child support system impacts our black fathers. And do we really want to put our hands, the hands of our child's father, the hands of our children? Because ladies, a lot of us have men, a lot of us have boys who will become men someday. Do we really want to put them inside of a system that is not ruining the black family? That's what this conversation is about. Now, whether your daddy, your baby daddy pay child support or not, we ain't got nothing to do with that decision you made. That's not what we're talking about today. But I will have a ladies edition of child support as well. But this one, we are being educated about what the child support system does to black fathers. Big Slim says, my brother is 35 and still scared to get a chick pregnant. He's a unicorn. I'm 35 too, and he ain't got nobody pregnant yet either. You do what the judge tells you to do, or you go to jail, says Tyler Durden. And then Family Advocate Mediation Support says, absolutely, not the narrative for any group for father. I'm not sure what that means. I do want to talk about, we're talking about celebrities and Tyrese. Dr. Umar, I want you to give us your thoughts on Tyrese's ex-wife asking or presenting $20,000 a month child support payment.
It's tough, and Tyrese is a buddy of mine. He and I, we talk from time to time. I wouldn't want to speak on a specific situation. On the surface, it does appear excessive. It is my hope that Julian will be able to work something out that works for the best, that works in the best interest of the child and for both of them. And to be honest with you, Timmy, that is really the problem. It's not about whether the father can pay money or whether he's unemployed. It's about why we can't sit down and have a conversation that is focused on the best interest of the child as it each other. I think one of the cruxes of this situation is unhealthy men and unhealthy women, irregardless of education, irregardless of income. They are coming together, producing children, and when they don't get what they want out of each other, they then make it up in their minds that they're going to do whatever they can to destroy the other person, and they don't mind destroying their child's relationship put that other parent in the process.
So who's doing more damage to the child? That sounds like the mother is doing more damage to the child than the father is actually doing. Because he is the one with the right on the mother.
I think it takes two to tango.
Wait. I understand that. Let me complete my thought.
Go ahead, Richard.
Just like Dr. Omar said, but yet she's taking me to court. In order for me to be a part of my child's life, I have to deal with the court system. She's taking me to court. Yes, we can sit down and talk. But yet, if she's taking me to the court system, even with Tyrese, I want $20,000 versus what do you want to do or how you want to be a parent to our child? Because that's how it's set up. Because it's like the system is set up to beat me up. I have to fight with the court system and the mother, because it's the mother who denying the father access to his own children. Not the system itself. Because that's what happens when the father's got to go to court, and the only thing that you want to talk about is child support. I have more to offer to my kids.
Wow. Dr. Umar, over $150 billion is owed to the government in back child support and associated fees, mostly by Black fathers. What are your thoughts on that?
And not only by Black fathers, but Black fathers who have to exist on an annual income of $10,000 or less. Again, I want to underscore the fact that the child support system is designed to crush the people who are most unable to meet the monthly obligation. It's further impoverishing Black men who are already impoverished. It's incarcerating them. It's separating them from their children. It is eroding the trust in the Black community between Black men and Black women. As some of the brothers said earlier, our marriage rates are going to be even worse than they are now in the next 10 to 20 years, because child support has become such a major contextual variable within the dating game that a lot of men, young men, I see on college campuses quite a bit, and they're telling me, Dr. Umar, I'm not getting married because I've seen how men have been mistreated and exploited and taken advantage of in the child support system. And not only do Black men have to speak up about this issue, Black women do as well, because a lot of very good Black women who would never take financial advantage of their child's father are sitting by watching their sisters do it, watching their aunts do it, watching their cousins and best friends do it. And as Dr. King said, we are in greater peril, not from the people who do evil, but from the ones who watch it and don't speak up. Black women need to start speaking up about other Black women who are taking advantage of the system.
Well, I'm glad I could.
Come on, Paul.
Tyler Durden, our soulmate, says over $150 quadrillion is owed to the Black man by the government. Ooh, y'all.
Hi, we're Suja, and we love plants, like really love plants.
All right, today I want to talk about 10 questions for Black politicians. Today I want to address 10 questions for Black politicians. 10 questions. Okay? As you know, after the death of King was murdered in 1968, there was a significant rise in the Black politician population. The Black bourgeoisie was recreated by the United States government, and one of the leading populations of that Black bourgeoisie was the Black politicians. And so today, we want to talk about Black politicians. After they killed Dr. King, the United States government reinvented the Black bourgeoisie and the Black middle class. One of the major populations of that Black middle class was the Black politician. The Black politician. Okay? And they were going to use that Black politician as a gatekeeper, as a protection against the Black community's attempt to force justice and equality on the United States government. And with the rise of the black politician from the early 1970s all the way until today, with the rise of the black politician from the early 1970s all the way until today, okay, we have seen the demise of the black community. So the more black politicians we get, the worse off black people become. The more black politicians we get, the worse off black people become. The question is why? Why do we do worse with the more politicians we get? And the reason we do worse is because most black politicians, number one, do not run for office to help black people. They run for office to help themselves. Let me say this again. Most black politicians don't run for office to help black people. They run for office to help themselves. So that's number one. That's number one. 99% of all black politicians are self-serving and clique-serving. Okay? Most black politicians are also elitists. What is a black elitist? A black elitist is a black person, okay, with an arrogant perspective about other black people. They consider themselves to be better than other black people, more important than other black people, and most of all, more cultural than other black people. Now, when I say the black elitist considers themselves to be more cultural than other black people, I'm not talking African culture. I'm not talking Tech. I'm not talking black consciousness. When I say that elitist blacks consider themselves to be more cultural than other blacks, I'm speaking about European culture. Okay? So black elitists are more European culture than other black people. In other words, they value white attitude, white theory, white belief, and white lifestyle more than black culture. Okay? And their values and viewpoints and core beliefs are very much in line and in keeping with the dominant upper middle class white society. So a black elite, intents and purposes, is basically a white person with a black flesh. And many of our politicians are of this ilk. Am I saying every black politician is a sellout? Of course not. There's always a good one every once in a while. But systematically speaking,
L to the no, no,
black
no.
politicians are largely in the interest of white politicians. Let me say that. The average black politician is a servant of white politicians. You would say, how can you say this? You can say this because 99% of all black politicians belong to one of America's major political parties. So if you belong to one of America's major political parties, that also means that you serve the interests of the party that you belong to. Most black politicians are Democrats. Most black politicians are Democrats. So most black politicians serve the Democratic Party and the interests and the agenda of the Democratic Party. So the average black politician is a slave to the agenda of white people, be it the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. So most of you know that I generally don't vote.
Ah, come on.
I would never say that I don't vote. I would say I generally don't vote. The reason I would say I would never vote, the reason I would not say I would never vote is because if I find that it is in the interest of my people to vote for a particular candidate for a particular reason, I I would do so. Let me say that again. If I find that there is a black politician who I believe has a particular agenda, intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or unconsciously, that can benefit my community, I would vote. So for me, voting is a strategy. It is not a way of life. Voting is a strategy. It is not a way of life. And because voting is a strategy, like any strategy, you never disqualify any strategy. Every strategy should be evaluated for its effectiveness at that particular time and space. Okay? So you may have violence is also a strategy, which is why I can never say I'm committed to nonviolence. I can never say I'm committed to violence. Okay? And the reason I can never say that I got this iPhone 8 and I'm trying to figure out. Okay, never mind. So anyhow,
Come on, y'all gonna let him?
voting is a strategy, and with any strategy, you don't automatically reject it or embrace it. You evaluate it for its potential effectiveness and its ability to help support your agenda. And that evaluation determines whether or not you're going to move forward with that strategy. It's a tactic. Voting, violence, marching, all of these are strategies and tactics. So I don't automatically discount them. I don't automatically embrace them. And it's just like fixing your car. When you're fixing your car, you have a toolbox. When you fix your car, you have a toolbox, right? And if you're trying to change your brakes, you don't just take out one tool and say, this is all I need. You bring the whole toolbox, because you might find in changing your brakes that you might need to use a wrench this time, or you might need to use a screwdriver this time, or you might need to use a jackhammer this time, or you might need to use a hammer, or you might need a chisel. You don't know what you're going to need until you get into the action. And the action determines what types of strategies and tactics that we may need. So don't automatically pledge yourself to a strategy. And black people make a bad habit. Black people make a very bad habit of pledging ourselves to strategies and tactics without even evaluating their effectiveness for the mission. I said we pledge ourselves to strategy.
Today, I'm getting to combine two of my favorite things, motorsports and photography.
And tactics without actually evaluating their effectiveness for our mission. Let me grab some water. I am a son of the sun. Shout out to all the Leo season. It's on the rise.
No fucking way, man.
One second, brothers and sisters. I just lost my iPad. Wow. I lost my iPad. Okay. I think we're good now. This particular hotel doesn't have enough plugins. I don't like this. They don't have enough places to plug in your devices. So, let's get into the questions to ask a black politician. If they want me to run to vote for them, okay, what are some of the questions that I would have? Right?
Fuck!
Question number one, and these are in no particular order. These are in no particular order. Number one, what are you going to do to expunge criminal records for returning citizens, ex-offenders, who have paid their debt to society and are not able to get a second chance because their record, their felonies, continue to haunt them and continue to sabotage every attempt at employment, higher education, or any other type of resource that they may need to rebuild their lives. So that's number one. We need to get criminal records expunged for black men and women. We need to get criminal records expunged for black men and women. They need to be given a second opportunity to rebuild their life. I will exclude from that list sexual predators, and I will exclude from that list those who have committed acts of murder that did not take place in the act of self-defense. Murders and sexual crimes, okay, may be excluded from that list. But for everyone else, particularly non-violent drug offenses, selling drugs, those records should be expunged. So number one, what are you going to do about the expungement of those records? That's the first question that I would have for a black politician. Number two, what are you going to do to help black people access working capital from America's banks so that they can build businesses? Jobs are a thing of the past. And the only thing keeping black people working right now is the service industry. Without the service industry, cleaning and security, paperwork, and that type of stuff, without service, post office and UPS, without the service industry, I don't know what type of employment predicament black America would be in right now. So if a politician wants me, if a politician
One more. Get him out of here. Yes, sir.
if a politician wants me to vote for them, they must be able to give me a plan of how they plan to help black people systematically access wealth. Systematically access wealth.
Fuck.
The reason I'm saying systematically, brothers and sisters, is because a politician will always help a couple black people. Let me say this again.
Robert,
Come
where
on,
the
jump.
is going, it seems that it is high political season to sort of target the rich, make them look bad. You're saying that we should be pursuing becoming rich ourselves and not bashing those who already are. Do I have that right?
Politicians will always find a way to help a couple of black people. I don't care about a couple of black people. I want to know what are you going to do systematically to impact access to wealth for all black people. Systematically. What system will you put in place that will help all African Americans, American Africans, access wealth in a meaningful way so that we can build business for ourselves? Telling me that you're giving out a couple grants is not a systemic move. Telling me that you help this person build their business, that's not a systemic move. You will always be able to help a couple of individuals. You will always be able to help a couple of individuals. I'm not asking you about a couple of individuals. I'm not asking you about Pookie, who got a t-shirt business, or Nene, who now has her own restaurant. I'm saying that's good, but that's individual support. I'm not asking about individual support. What are you going to do systematically? What system? What procedure? What protocol?
what program are you going to put in place so that every black person has an opportunity to get the same help you gave to Pookie and Nene? That's what systematically means. Systematically means every black person has an opportunity to access that resource. If every black person doesn't have an opportunity to access that resource, then that resource has not been implemented systematically. It means that that resource is something you use when you want to help the people you like. I don't care about the people you like. But what are you going to do systematically to help us? That doesn't mean every black person is going to be served, but it does mean most black people will be served. So anything you're doing that doesn't affect the general, everyday black person, it is not a systemic solution. It is only a band-aid that you use at your own leisure to help people who do things for you. And that's how most politicians operate. Most politicians operate on a popularity platform that says, I'm only going to help a few people in need. And I'm only going to help me. Okay? I got an iPhone 8, brothers and sisters, and I'm having trouble being able to block people. When I click on their comment, I just get the smiley face and the thumbs up. How do you block the iPhone 8? I'm tapping and nothing is happening. Oh well. So anyhow, we politicians to do. Come on. Black people. That's okay. So number one, what are you going to do to expunge criminal records? That's my first question for black politicians. Number two, what are you going to do to help us access wealth so we can build businesses? In other words, the black politician must have a program to deal with white bank racism. Let me say it. The black politician must have a program to deal with white bank racism. If a black politician, I don't care if it's a governor, lieutenant governor, president, council person, state rep, U.S. rep, state senator, U.S. senator, alderman, whoever they may be, if they don't have a program to deal with white bank racism, they're useless to us. They are useless to us. Just the other day, I heard that one of America's major banks is being sued by black people for systematic discrimination. And I applaud those who took suit against that bank, because every bank in America needs to be sued for economic discrimination against black people. And it bothers me that we have our money, and this is something we need to change, but we have our money. Most black people's money is in the white bank. Most black business money is in the white bank. Okay, most black organizational money is in the white bank. And these same banks that we give our money to use our money to empower racism and to work against black power. These very same banks that we give our money to use our money to invest in white power and to dissipate black power. And so we have to do something about that. So your politician must have a program to deal with Jim Crow financial practices in America. Okay. Number three, before I vote for a black politician, they're going to have to tell me what are they going to do about gentrification. What are they going to do about gentrification? What are they going to do to stop white people from taking over black neighborhoods and putting us out of our neighborhoods? What are you going to do to stop white people from coming into the black neighborhood and taking over our neighborhoods? Gentrification, but I call it by its real name, ethnic cleansing. That's what I call it. Residential ethnic cleansing. That's what gentrification is. Residential ethnic cleansing. And if the black politician
doesn't have a plan or a program to help me deal with residential ethnic cleansing, aka gentrification, then can I get my vote? Now the irony is most of these questions that you should ask your black politician, they won't be able to answer anyway. Why? Because most of these questions go against the very same white power that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is trying to protect. Let me say this again. Most of these questions will go unanswered by your black politician because most black politicians belong to the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party is in the interest of protecting established white power. These questions are about, undermine established white power in order to provide black people with opportunity. So when you ask these questions, you're not going to get answers because the end of these questions would be to undermine the agenda and interests of the Democratic Party, which is why I always say I can't vote for a black person, or I would have trouble voting for a black person who is a Democrat or a Republican. Why? How can I vote for a Democrat or Republican when the Democratic Party and the Republican Party doesn't have any interest in helping black people? Okay? It's just that simple. You belong to a racist organization, the Democratic Party and Republican Party. You belong to a racist organization, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Since you belong to a racist organization, to vote for you is to vote for your organization. Because you're going to do whatever the organization tells you to do. So if a black candidate for me is not independent, if a black candidate for me is not an independent candidate, I cannot vote for him. I cannot vote for him. Okay? You must be independent if you want power. Independent candidate have independent money. Independent candidate has an independent
What the fuck?
It doesn't mean everything that they say and do is going to be true. It doesn't mean that they're not a sellout either. But it does mean that they're a little bit more progressive than the average Negro, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. Because guess what? They're never going to go against the party. The party is more important to them than black people. The party is more important to them than black people. Okay? So, expunging criminal records is number one. Helping black people access capital, i.e., what are you going to do about white bank racism? That's number two. Because we know that accessing wealth is what black people need more than ever before. Because there's no more jobs for us, there's no more opportunities for us. We have to make it. Okay, we are an endangered species. The African American is an endangered species. Okay? The African American is an endangered species. Okay? And the only thing that's going to save us is us. So anybody running for office who isn't trying to help black people save themselves is an idiot to black people. I don't want to hear about no government programs because black politicians love to tell you about some government programs. I don't want to hear about no government programs. I don't want to hear about no government programs. Okay? No government programs. All right? What are you going to do? Okay? And then gentrification. What are you going to do to stop ethnic cleansing in our neighborhood? Question number 4 of 10. Why aren't you an independent candidate? This is a very powerful question. This is a very powerful question. This is a very
powerful question to ask a black Democrat or Republican who wants your vote. Can you please tell me why you did not register as an independent candidate? Why did you feel it necessary to join up with the white racist Democratic movement? Why? Especially if you live in a predominantly black city. If you live in a predominantly black town or a predominantly black city,